Right, to explain this game, I'm just going to have a quick chat with Steve Metheringham from the group. I'm just going to let him tell the story of what this is before us. So, Steve, particularly to some sort of younger wargamers, what is this?
Well, this is a 7 years war game. It was played using toy soldiers, really. These are 40mm semi-flats painted like toy soldiers, really.
And to people that don't know, what is a semi-flat?
Well, most war games figures now are what you call full round, which is sort of anatomically filling out the whole body. Whereas these, if you look at them from the front, they're quite thin. But if you look at them from the side, they look like normal figures. Whereas some years ago there used to be German ones which were called flats, which were dead thin. They were almost like cardboard thin. But these are halfway between, really.
And there's definitely a sort of throwback sort of feel to it, isn't it? It looks very, very classical. Is that a deliberate thing that you've gone for that you like?
Yeah, it's a deliberate plan. If any of the older people, they'll know books like Charge and the War Game, which were done years and years ago, which had a lot of very stylised figures in them. These figures are sort of a continuation of those figures. The original sculptor for these ranges was the same person that did the figures that was in the Charge and the War Game, but now there's new sculptors on board, but we've tried to keep the sort of look and feel of them the same.
So, can you tell me a bit about how they're made? Because really unusually, these are home cast figures, aren't they? So these are metal figures that you've made at home. So how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, most figures that you see now are what you call spin cast figures, where the manufacturer puts them in a mould and uses a centrifugal casting machine and produces them en masse. These are what you call drop cast, which is just a mould which does one at a time and relies on gravity to make the figures. You buy the moulds these are bought from a company called Prince August, who have now got sort of a reasonable range of figures for this 7 years war period.
I think it's a wonderful looking game, and have you been pleased with how it's turned out and the reaction to it?
Yeah, we seem to be having a lot of people look at it, particularly older guys with mostly grey haired. Sort of it brings them back to the youth, really. I mean, there's the Charge and the War Game are now probably 50 years old, which means that the guys who are now pensioners were probably looking at these sort of figures when they were in the teens.
It strikes me as well that you've had to sort of craft it at home. You've built everything from scratch upwards, figure by figure. Has that been a sort of rewarding process? Yeah,
it's very therapeutic. It involves. It's not something for the faint-hearted, really. You're dealing with molten metal, which is 300 or 400 degrees. So you don't want to be you don't want to be playing with it too much, but it's quite safe if you do it properly.
And the Battle of Prague, 6th of May 1757, just briefly give us a summary of that.
Well, this is sort of the early stages of the 7 Years' War, which was 1756 to 63. This is with the Prussians have invaded Bohemia. They're just outside Prague, and the Frederick the Great's attacking the Austrian army, and this is representing the right flank of the Austrian army, where the Prussians were trying to catch the Austrians on the hop, really. So both armies are feeding in units piecemeal.
Brief mention of the rules.
We used a set of rules called a gentleman's war, which are really a toy soldier set of rules, which are aimed at the end of the 19th century. So what they call H.G. Wells type figures, but they've been modified slightly to play 7 Years' War, but just keep the toy soldier feel of it. Lots of dice, lots of saving rolls, just to make it fun.
Why did you sort of decide it was the right game for Hammerhead in particular?
I thought it was something a little bit different. I generally find that it gets, as I say, from the older generations, they get quite a lot of attention seeing the what we call old school look at the rules, look at the figures and rules.
Well done, mate. It looks fantastic.
Right, thanks a lot.